Hey guys, this is John Carrick. I am the author of The Legacy of Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. Two amazing audiobooks here on YouTube for you guys to check out. Science fiction, fantasy. We also have a comic book in the description, but we'll get to that in a little bit. First, we're going to do this conflicted card. This is the Three of Diamonds. And this is conflicted deck 1. This one says, your urban stronghold has been raided by a gang who you have successfully defended your stronghold and driven them off. Presumably there's some casualties, but they don't say whether there are or not. It does say that when you scout around the area, you discover their children and their old ones where they've hidden them, and the gang that you've run off, has not returned for them. What do you do? If you take them prisoner, they will cost half of your supplies. What do you do? Clearly, if you have some casualties, if you've killed some members of their group, yeah, they attacked you, but looking at it from a different perspective, you're kind of now responsible for them. You have to make some kind of decision, whether you execute them, whether you take them in, or whether you use them as bait for the remaining members of their group, who will most likely scout out the area and see if they aren't still there. You have to do some version of those choices. Or I suppose you could just do nothing and leave them there. That's the fourth option, which is probably the least valuable. If you've got a situation to deal with like that, you may as well deal with it. Again, audiobooks here in the description, links at the end. And today's comic is Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, number 25. I have done Tarzan a bit of a disservice because I started with Tarzan number 1 from Marvel Comics in 1977. But this was pretty late into Tarzan's publication career. This is the very end of the Tarzan publication cycle. I've got a list here. Dell Comics started in, I want to say 1949. But Tarzan was a regular fixture of the newspaper strips since 1939, when Bert Hogarth was doing him, through 1942. There's another guy, Ross Manning, who did the newsprints from 67 to 70. So theoretically, Tarzan was a regular daily newsprint from 1939 through the 70s. I don't know when it ended in the newspaper, but this is the comics. Dell printed 131 issues before it went over to Gold Key in 1942, I want to say. That can't be right. 49 Dell started. Oh yeah. Gold Key took over in 1962 with issue 132. They ran until issue 206 when DC Comics took over in 1967 and kept them until 1977. Kept Tarzan until 1977. I just want to double check that. 1972 to 1977. And then Dark Horse took over from 96 to 98 after Marvel Comics did their 28 issues from 1977 to 1980. And here we have number 25. 1977 to 1979. It didn't even make it to 1980. This is Tarzan returning. So what has happened is Tarzan has moved through time warp, and I'm guessing the writers were as exhausted with Tarzan as everyone else in the public because he's been on TV. Tarzan, the public must have been super saturated with Tarzan shit. They must have been sick of Tarzan the way we are with Batman and Spider-Man and Superman right now. And Deadpool. Maybe not so much Deadpool, but definitely Batman. Tarzan was not as ubiquitous, was more ubiquitous then than he is today. Today, he's not so well, I mean, everyone knows who he is. Same way that who Conan is. Conan, it's funny. The model for Tarzan, I was looking at on Comic Book Realm at some of those issues, and Dell and DC and Gold Key were also running John Carter of Mars stories in those Tarzan books. So it was basically the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate. They gave them a package deal. here we get Tarzan returning home to Greystoke Manor in the plains of Africa. And this is a Sal Buscema drawing. Bill Milgram as credited as the writer. Bob Hall as the inks. George Russo's colors, I want to say, is that right? He had been colors for a long time on Conan too. Yeah, Jay Russo's. And Alan Milgram is the editor. This is a good shot. But they did some writing magic. And I was about to say this before I got distracted with the whole history of Tarzan. They jumped Tarzan ahead in his career several years past the point that he had met and married Jane by sending him to the Hollow Earth for a few issues, several issues, written by a third writer. The first ones were Roy Thomas, then David Croft came in, now it's Bill Milgram. I want to say that's not right, is it? I have to look that up. Bill Mantlo. Bill Mantlo. I think I said that wrong earlier too. Bill Mantlo is the writer. Alan Milgram is the editor. Sorry. Anyhow, Tarzan and the monkey are swinging through the trees. And we get this. You don't see this often. This is a double page spread for the top 2/3 or top, 3/4. And then you get 4 panels across the bottom, this is a nice layout. This is, I think a lot of artists would call a little bit indulgent with the volume of dead space between the lion and Tarzan. And now let's remember that the black-maned lion, Jadbalja, has been taken captive. And also in this issue we get Korak, the son of Tarzan. If you didn't know, Tarzan had a son who also had few comics, which is what got me looking up the history of Tarzan in the first place in comics, because I recognized the name Korak. And this is Tarzan's son. And the lion is the king of the beasts, whereas the elephant is the king of the jungle, and Tarzan is the lord of the jungle. So here is a little bit of a recap. What's happened, the Waziri are explaining to Tarzan's son how poachers have set fire in the veldt to capture animals, and a maddened rhino drove Lady Greystoke's jeep over a cliff and knocked her into a ravine, into a river. And of course, Korak is stressed. And as he's telling him this, Tarzan arrives. And Korak says, "Jump in, I'll drive us." And Tarzan says, "No, it'll be faster for me to go on foot." Now, we don't get images of Korak driving through the veldt, which is huge brush, and he has to weave around while Tarzan is going through the trees. It's easy to confuse the jungle with the veldt, and they do cross over. Of course, they cross over a lot more in comics than in real life, but whatever. Africa's a big place. I read today, Africa is 430 times the size of Ireland. What in the fuck are Africans needed it for in Ireland? Why do Africans need to go to Ireland? It's Jews. It's the Kalergi plan. Every day I'm going to get on here and say I hate the Jews. I hate them as groups. As individuals, you're not an individual, you're a person with a name. But if you're standing with that group and my machine gun fire rakes your group, look out, world. St. Robert Bowers. If I was president, I'd pardon him tomorrow. I'd also declare a religious war on Judaism. I would attack synagogues every Saturday. Here is Tarzan chasing down the poachers who have supposedly murdered his wife. And this is the fat poacher guy. I don't know if Bill Milgram is Jewish or not, but I'm going to call out every time in media that I see a white villain, I'm going to say that this is influenced by Jews. The same as I'm going to claim that every time a black commits a crime that it goes on a Jew's conscience. Every time a black commits a crime against a white person. Blacks can commit crimes against blacks all day long. I don't care. That's not even a sin. If a black commits a crime against a white person, that's a Jewish sin. It's a Jewish crime. So here, Tarzan, this is the poachers, and Jane climbing out of the cliff, or climbing out of the ravine, and she stays hidden while the poachers are caging up their catches. This is later in Tarzan. I believe the last one said it was 1929. I was going to look up what year Tarzan was written, but I didn't get that far. And so these poachers aren't on boats, they have planes. And they burn the veldt to turn it into a landing strip. There is a bit of a problem in that they keep in the captions describing the veldt as burned, but the colors colored it green anyhow. They could have mixed in some browns. They could have done something to make it look burnt. They wouldn't have had to make it black. Anyhow, here's where Tarzan catches the poacher, throws him into his cages. And I was going to mention back here that there's, the cliffhanging trope. The cliffhanger trope is here in the issue, in that she was thrown off the cliff at the end of the last issue. But you kind of saw her fall into the river. Ostensibly, she's climbing up with wet hair. Although in the last story arc, we saw the Black Princess Aisha go into the river and it not affect her hair at all. So anyhow, this guy's about to shoot Tarzan. He gets mauled by Jadbalja, the lion, through the bars of his cage, the black-maned lion. So this is a big fight. Unfortunately, this is much ado about nothing in that the planes land, and while many of the animals have been freed from their cages, they don't stay freed very long. This is Jane watching the planes land. Sorry if my finger was covering her face. She's there at the edge of the page. So Jane has not exposed herself. She does not know that Tarzan is inside the hangar fighting with these poachers. This lady in the magenta really does look like Baroness. Does remind me of Baroness. She doesn't have the glasses, but she is the poacher's sort of girl Friday, I guess is the term. Not his wife, but his love interest. He's promised to take her to New York in the last issue, and then he repeats it here. It's apparently a big deal for this guy, Bill Milgram. New York is apparently everything. So they attack Tarzan with the cattle prod and zap him unconscious. And they chain him up along with Jane. They catch Jane and chain her up. And the lion, they catch the lion again too. I think Jane threatens them with the authorities, and so they take her captive. She just basically steps out and calls them out. She might attack them a little bit, but it's relatively ineffective in that they handcuff her, tie her up, and put her on the plane. And the planes are airborne. We do get a Spider-Man hostess ad. The planes, these cargo planes get airborne, and Tarzan is on one plane and Jane is on the other. All the animals did not fit on one plane because I guess, there's some realism in Tarzan jungle comics. He can swing through a jungle, but they need two planes. Okay. If that's the hill you're not willing to lie about, that's the lie you don't want to tell. Okay. So anyhow, that's the cliffhanger for this episode. They're literally in the sky in separate planes. Jane and Tarzan are separated from the animals of their area, their veldt, their jungle. So what are they going to do? How are they going to get everyone back home? There is our comic book, Ashley Fox Ninja Babysitter. This is Ashley Last Valkyrie, where she becomes inducted into the Order of the Valkyrie. This is number 6 in a 6-issue limited series, where we never drew 1 through 5. We were just sort of pitching it as a concept, and we didn't get it colored either. There are a lot of colored panels. I will put it together eventually. We both kind of got distracted, and then the culture war happened, and life happened, and we've both had to rearrange our careers and get different jobs and stuff. So yeah. In the meantime, I've developed a couple video games that I'm working on that are going to help promote and support this, where we're also going to help promote and support other people's comics. The idea is I want to do 3 issues, 3 sort of like prequel issues to a 6-issue arc, and then 3 sort of addendum issues that will have little short 1 to 2 to 4 to 6 page stories with characters, as opposed to the big 6-issue arc, which is going to focus on one group of government agents. And these other 6 issues at the beginning and the end will tell additional stories that are either before, after, or in the middle of the big 6 issues. So I'm really happy. Creatively, I could not be more fulfilled. There could be more hours in the day. I could have more money for art supplies. I could be further along in the publication journey where we're actually have an audience that is interactive with the channel and with the group. I'm basically going to be the voice of the pair of us because Jay's not going to be an on-camera personality, but I'm going to be showing off a lot of his art. He's been killing it on the covers for this new arc, and 6 issues, man, he's got like 50 covers, and we have almost 200 pages of text. It's the panels in between that would be a massive undertaking, so we're going to see if we can't tell this story in a more abbreviated way, or tell parts of it in 6-issue bits. 6 issues is a lot to do when you have a full-time job. Can't do that in a year. This is going to be a lot. This is a big thing for us. And I have 26 hours of science fiction fantasy already out there, done for you guys to check out. Imagine doing comics of that. God, I can't even imagine. There's probably 30 issues here. 26 hours, let's say, if you get a minute per page of comic story, that would be 26 times 3, 60. Wow, that's a lot. Man, if I had the time to produce that and the new one, and I want to do 12 volumes of Ashley Fox stories, let alone these other characters. Last night we came up with a character. Jay and I were on the phone for a few hours. I want to do a character. I want to combine a serial killer girl character. I want to give her some new powers and make her character a little bit different. I want to make her like a female John Constantine who's not affiliated with any sort of religion, but she can see demons and she can drive them out of people and she can trap them in everyday objects. And then she has to hide those objects because anyone who comes into contact with them is at risk of being possessed by the demon. So that's her sort of natural skill. And I haven't figured out her origin. Like Wolverine, no one knew how Wolverine was Wolverine forever. He had amnesia. No one, what could you fucking do? It's not like you could harass the editors and the writers just in the letters pages. So eventually they gave you Wolverine's origin, and so I have some ideas for this girl's origin story, and I know the genesis of her inspiration. I know where she came from. But we're going to give her, as her executioner, a giant elf, a warrior elf who can turn invisible whenever he wants and do like Zartan level camouflage. So that's like, I could do 12 issues just on those two out fucking around. Yeah, so I represent a huge risk and an investment for a publishing company, to the extent that I would be bad news for Marvel or DC or Dark Horse or Image at any point during the culture war. I would have gotten canceled, they would have gotten canceled, it would have been a shit show for all of us, because I would say shit like it should be a capital crime for non-whites to speak English. To me, that's a funny joke. That's Anthony Jeselnik, Daniel Tosh level joke, but some people are going to freak out. Luckily, I can fight whoever gets mad about it. So, all right, see you guys tomorrow.